Welcome to another Edric and Dave Fireside Chat. We have exciting new updates that we will debate with various language AIs in this and upcoming episodes.
A lot of our audience might still have questions about why we are still paying high gas prices today, or why rental prices are still very high, or why prices in grocery stores are not coming down much recently, even though the Fed has done a great job to increase interest rates last year and this year.
We want to use this episode to discuss why inflation will be longer than expected. We will ask ChatGPT first, and then we will discuss it with ChatGPT. David, go ahead.
Okay, I'll put the prompt of today's podcast into ChatGPT. Why might inflation take longer than expected to come down in 2023? And then
Persistent supply chain disruption. I think this is a good point. Supply chain disruption currently plays a big role in the housing market. During the pandemic, builders were not able to construct sufficient housing to meet today's demands. This is the primary reason housing prices are still high today, even though the mortgage rate is still above 7%.
This also affects rental price. Rental price year-over-year growth will rise from 5.8% as of June 2022 to 8.4% as of May 2023. I disagree with point number 5 made by ChatGPT. I think the Fed has done a good job by continuously increasing interest rates and setting proper expectations for potential hikes and mitigating pivots in the near term.
Some of the structural issues with high inflation are not what the Fed could fix. It requires the government to initiate further actions, such as improving trade relations with the Middle East and China and settling the Ukraine conflict.
For number 6, this is a good point. Investments in green technologies and energy efficiency are necessary to make a transition to a more sustainable economy. Because of this, businesses are now facing greater manufacturing expenses, which are then passed on to consumers in the form of higher pricing for goods and services. In addition, energy costs have also increased as a result of the conflict in Ukraine. In correlation, businesses now face greater manufacturing expenses, which ripple through the pricing for goods and services.
However, some of these issues cannot be resolved by monetary policy and Fed tightening. The government needs to spend more to encourage investments in AI, green energy, etc., and this will take multiple years. For number 2, ChatGPT highlighted elevated commodity prices. I don't think it emphasized enough on energy, the current rising energy prices, which are partially due to geopolitical issues, including the Ukraine conflict and Saudi's oil cut output.
I agree. The Fed's continuous increase of interest rates can only lead the economy into recession, and less economic activities, less energy consumption. If the economy has a soft landing, as many economists expect, then it is likely that energy prices will still maintain a high level.
But I disagree with GPT's point on food price increase.
Yes, according to the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, food prices peaked in March of 2022. This shows ChatGPT's lack of knowledge of events after 2021. Currently, the food prices in August 2023 are 2.1% less than in July of 2023. I think ChatGPT's point of number 7, which is expectation anchoring, is a very good point. The current car worker union strike is a good example of this.
Yes, especially with a labor shortage, other structural issues for the economy, wage inflation might be there for the long term.
ChatGPT's point on global issues, which is number 8, is very critical. Geopolitical issues could lead to trade restrictions, tariffs, or other economic disruptions that could keep inflation elevated.
The complex interplay of these factors can make it challenging for policymakers to forecast inflation and to devise strategies to mitigate it. Each of these factors might require distinct policy responses, and their global interconnectedness can further complicate the scenario in 2023. There are a few things that ChatGPT missed that also make inflation higher and longer, such as government spending. Governments around the world might continue with fiscal stimulus measures to spur economic growth, which can add to demand pull inflation, especially if supply constraints remain.
Now let's give ChatGPT some feedback. What? Yes, ChatGPT also thinks government spending is another key factor that can impact inflation. I also think the labor shortage is a structure and long-term issue. The wage will stay at a high level. The strong demand for labor pushes wages even higher, and cost push inflation could persist. Now let's put the labor shortage into ChatGPT.
ChatGPT's response did highlight many of what David pointed out. Overall, GPT is pretty impressive and it set up a good framework for us to discuss.
For some points, though, ChatGPT needs to be fed more information and data in order to become smarter.
Next time, we will bring another economic topic with ChatGPT. Thanks for watching and stay tuned.
Yeah, thanks for listening to our podcast. See you next time.